Can a brand new building be haunted? And does the land itself hold the connection? Dive into the deep end with East Valley Paranormal on this week's episode of the Paranormal Pool.
Hey everybody, I'm Heather.
And I'm Michelle.
And we're East Valley Paranormal. And today on the Paranormal Pool, we'll be talking about modern hauntings.
Yes, we will. But before that, I wanted to say thank you guys so much for reaching out to us after last week's episode and sending us your words of encouragement. And just for listening, we really appreciate you. Thanks. You.
So today we have a tale. It's an origin story, sort of, for East Valley Paranormal, plus a spooky tale. We were doing some events in this gallery, and I was teaching dance classes at one point, and we had like one of those handicap doors where you push the button and the door opens really slow and then it, slowly closes. So I was speaking to these women. The door flings open so hard it hits the wall, it flings back, and I knew the door didn't work like that. So I was super confused. I thought maybe it was the kids. The kids were not anywhere near the door. So I told Michelle about it. And then from then, we kind of started keeping an eye on things, and we saw the light in this closet flick off and on.
Yes, it just randomly, it's on a motion sensor, so it's not, something that was outside of the realm of possibility that something moved in front of it, but the switch is already on the inside of the closet. So it would have had to have been something inside the closet, and there was really nothing in there moving on its own. So that's kind of piqued our interest. And then we were building some events, and then one night we did have an experience with some balloons that were coming down from the ceiling. And we had filled them up, I think a day prior, right? Or
yeah,
earlier.
We filled them up with helium, and we put them up, and they went up to the ceiling. There was a lot of them up there.
100.
Yeah, there was 100 up there.
But as the evening went, some of them would drop down to the floor, and they'd go back up, and it was kind of cool. And one of them dropped down to about head level, and I remember looking over at it, and because they would catch my attention as they dropped down. And this one just sort of made a beeline across the room at me. And we were wrapping up the event for the evening, so we weren't really thinking too much about it. And I'm sort of semi-accustomed to this kind of thing happening to me. So I just sort of batted aside and kept doing what I was doing. But it kept coming after me. And then I noticed this poor little lady across the room, and she was noticing the battle that I was having with the balloon. And her mouth was on the floor, her jaw was completely on the floor. So we stopped at that moment. The balloon and I stopped our fuss. But it was
weird, and it was a funny story. I mean, we've actually told this story on a different podcast, and and it was kind of funny. When you hear it, you're like, "There's no way that could happen." But when you're standing in the middle of something that weird, and you're like, "No, this shit is happening." It's so bizarre. We ended up the next night going in, and I was going to pop all the balloons because we wanted to clear the space for the next person coming into the event space and everything. So Michelle was at work, I think, and I went down there by myself for a bit, and I'm popping the balloons and cleaning stuff up, and the vibe in the place was just super heavy. It was kind of sad. I felt like at one point my right arm had full goosebumps, as if somebody brushed across me, and I thought, that's really weird. And as I was thinking about it, Michelle walks in and she goes, "Whoa, it's real heavy in here." She's like, "It's super heavy." And then she walked I think you walked 3 or 4 steps in, and you were like, "I have full goosebumps." And I'm like, oh my God, that just happened to me. So we were sitting there popping the balloons and stuff and just feeling all this stuff happen. When I went to go into a totally different room, we were starting to feel the vibe in a different room, and we thought, this is not even the creepy closet, as we were starting to call it. This is a totally different section of the space. So I remember I was totally creeped out, and I didn't want to go back in because I left my water bottle in the fridge. I told Michelle, I was like, I'm going to go get my water bottle out of there. And as I got my water bottle, I was like, all right, everybody have a good night. Sorry, I'm just coming to get my water. I was kind of being a smart ass, and I'm going to get my water bottle. Sorry. And I was a little obnoxious. And then when we left, I got super sick. Like, really, really violently ill.
You could almost, you could almost feel it. I'm an intuitive, so I could almost feel it, like, wave out. We did actually feel that wind come blowing out of that room when we left, though.
It was really weird.
There was a very strange energy that was mad and sort of whipped around us at that point. And then, you were very sick that day.
We kind of hightailed it out of there. And then we had another event after that. And nothing really, like, stood out as far as anything happening. The light was kind of clicking off and on again. But there wasn't anything major. Until I think, like, the night of the performance in there, it was very heavy again. And we were like, you know what? We should come down here and, like, literally ghost adventure this shit. We were just like...
we did. And that was in August, right?
Yeah, so... we talked about, like, hey, I think we were talking, like, on Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters. We were like, because I love those shows.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
And we both love the paranormal, and we were just like, we should come down and we should record, like, audio recording. Like, no video. We weren't even thinking about that. We were just like, we should audio record down here.
Yeah, just to see what would happen. And I think we finally got around to having the same time to do that, October that same year, right? So
yeah.
So it was right around Halloween, I would say, when we started poking around, and we started hearing it. We started hearing some things, and I'll never forget the first night when we were in the gallery, and it was you, me, and only Soren. Remember?
Right.
And we had decided to set a recording device in the other room and sort of sit in the gallery and wait and see what we could pick up. And we kept hearing, I tell you what we heard. I wish I had isolated it so you could hear it. It was two men talking, and the first one would go, "Is that the shit?" And the second one would say, "Yeah, that's the shit." And then you would hear, "Yeah." So it was like, they were into something, like fine wine, I'm sure, is what they were doing. Something along those lines. But they would repeat it over and over again. And I'm looking at the phone, and I'm, like, getting irritated because I feel like the game is being played on me, because we must have downloaded an EVP recording, and I'm holding quote marks up, because all these voices are so clear, and it's, like, so weird, and it has to be a recording, so I demand to see the app that we're recording on, and it's just voice memo, you guys.
Yeah, she goes, what app are we recording on? And she goes, no, you guys, what app is it? And we're like, it's voice recorder. And she's like, no, but where are those sounds? Where are those, like,
what are the voices
Where are the voices coming from? And I'm like, that friggin' room. And she was like, the realization kicked in, like, oh my God, we actually caught voices on the recorder.
Like sentences, you guys. And
it was funny because we were talking to Soren about the space, and we're like, yeah, the light clicks off and on all the time on its own. And she was like, oh, So we hear the voices, and she's like, oh man, that's trippy. And then the light clicks on. I've never seen a human being levitate off the floor and Scooby-Doo run in the air for a moment, and her jaw was just on the floor. She was so freaked out about the light clicking on by itself. And by then, we had seen it like 100 times. And if you watch any of our live streams, we go live on Instagram a lot, at East Valley Paranormal, by the way. You should be following us. You'll see us record, and the light kicks on, and we're like, oh, the light's on, and we just kind of keep going. And I will talk to people the next day, and they'll go, you guys never seem phased that the light kicks on like that. And I'm like, we're just so used to it kicking on by itself. It's just like,
it'll happen at certain times too. Like, we'll know when a team member leaves or we're getting ready to wrap up.
Yes,
it'll kick on.
So we were like, man, we got to start coming down here and doing more. And we're like, then we started thinking about, well, what if we, instead of just putting a recording device in the room, we put a different, like a phone in one room. And then we try to connect it to a phone in a different room and record. And would it get a different EVP? Like, would we get more EVPs or we get nothing? And I don't even know why we started doing that or how we came about it.
Do we see it as an experiment on one of the shows?
Maybe. I'm thinking maybe we must have. I can't remember now. I remember
something about Kindred Spirits maybe having, like, done an experiment that was similar.
I don't remember, but we were like, let's try it. And so,
a very successful, like, means of communication.
Yeah. So we were putting a phone in this gallery space, and we were going to a totally different, like, not even in the same building, far away, not, just totally crazy, and totally different space, elevated up even 3 floors up. Yeah. And it was Halloween night. By then it was Halloween. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a dudder of a Halloween. Like, nobody came, like, around the area, and there was, like, a Halloween party previously, and we were, like, we had all these bags of candy laying around, and I remember I said, like, we're recording, we're all sitting there, and we're looking at these bags of candy, and we were like, what are we going to do with these bags of candy? Like, we have so much candy. What are we going to do with them? And we're recording, and we're talking about it and stuff. And then later on, when we play back the recording from the EVPs, we catch a voice literally saying candy. But it is the creepiest voice ever.
It is. I wonder if this is it.
We're going to try to play it for you guys. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but hopefully you guys can. Yes. And you all hear all those, like, little tones and beeps. That was, at the time, that was, like, its MO. Like, that's when we knew we were going to get really clear EVPs, because it would make these weird tones and, like, beeps and bloops, and we were like, what the heck is that? Mm-hmm. Almost as if, like, it's like a hospital or something, or like some sort of intercom system. I don't know. It was really weird.
It was very unusual. And we still do get tones a lot when we're recording. But this particular, I don't know, I don't want to say person, this particular communication, this particular guy, I mean, he's not very nice.
No.
I could play you guys a couple more things here real quick. I know this is gonna, I know you're gonna love this.
Ugh.
Yeah. That's rude. He's rude.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys can make that out. It was not nice. And also, too, we have these on our YouTube channel, too. If you want to take a look, and it has, like, the captions and stuff like that. So if you ever want to cruise over to our YouTube channel at East Valley Paranormal, all that stuff is on there. So we were just, like, we were baffled. We were like, wow, one, this ghost has a potty mouth.
Right. But it was what happened that night that we actually have a piece of the recording of. It was actually right next to the one that I was just looking at, so bear with me.
Yeah, so the communication, that whatever is communicating with us, and it was just always that same voice over and over and over, it was getting, like, more violent. It was saying more horrible things. It always, like, called us names and, like, the B word, the C word. It was, like, throwing F-bombs out at us, telling it hated us and all kinds of stuff. And we were just like, man, this little man is angry.
He's very upset.
He's very upset with us.
He's very upset. We feel like he did leave, and that's a much longer story for another time.
Yeah.
We feel like he's gone now. But we did experience that night when we set the recording device downstairs. Quite a shock when we went back into the gallery to get our equipment. And what I'm looking for is the audio of that real quick.
When we came in the door, like, Michelle we were already kind of a little freaked out going in because we could hear noise kind of on the other line of the phone, but we weren't really sure what it was because it sounded like a lot of commotion, but nobody was in that space. No one had a key to that space besides us, so nobody could get in, and plus it was like midnight or like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was crazy. So she opens up the door. She like beelines straight to where she's going, but me, Soren, and Kelsey literally have to walk diagonal and around because it literally felt like if we got off of a tilt-a-whirl or like the teacups at Disneyland, and all of us were so dizzy. We were all like walking in this like half circle very weirdly.
Yeah, it was super strange. I turned around and looked at them because I'm almost at the closet door, and I turn around and look, and they're walking someplace else. I'm like, we're going to go in here?
It was really weird, but that night we found out that there was poltergeist activity. Now, of course, this was before we started filming things. Right. We only did audio recordings, and we kick ourselves every night that we did not have, I mean, the stuff that we know now, because this was like 3 years ago. The stuff that we know now, we would have definitely had a freaking camera on there, but we did not capture it on video.
And I often wonder, though, because they know we record video now.
Yeah.
It has not happened since. Let's just be straight about that. We have not had that level of activity again since this night. But what I'm going to play you now is the audio recording from down there in that room, and it was full of brooms and chairs. It was just basic storage closet. So we're talking metal chairs, plastic tables, brooms, mop handles, that kind of thing. And this is what happened before we got down there.
Yeah, so all that noise you're hearing is the closet getting completely trashed. And all the little like, that is not us.
Yeah, you can hear our voices in a certain portion of it because we're on the open phone line and you can hear us coming through. But he is so mad about I don't know what. But
I mean, he's like huffing and puffing in there. And like just knocking shit over.
Well, and you can hear him, I mean, you can play it back, but you can hear him say bitch a couple of times. Like, he's super mad. He did in a lot of the recordings that we did, or in a lot of the things that we've isolated from that night, I should say, he did directly respond to us in almost every case of us saying something he could smarmily or awfully respond to. He did. He's
an angry dude.
Yeah, he just is not a very comfortable.
So when we found all that stuff, the closet being trashed, I just remember standing there and taking like about 7 steps back. And
because we had to dig to get our stuff out. So it took a minute just to go get everything out.
I just kind of started wandering away from the closet and just kind of like wandering through the gallery space and felt just kind of out of it. And I thought, well, maybe it's because the realization of, oh my gosh, we just witnessed a poltergeist activity, sort of, because this was not like this before. And so I thought maybe it was just me feeling weird about the situation. But we go to leave and we walk out the door and Michelle's got the key in her hand because we're like the only ones with the keys. And she locks the door, and in my head, I'm watching her lock the door and I tell myself, that's how that works.
Well, what was really actually funny was the reason I was locking the door was because you were holding the keys in your hand and staring at the door.
Yeah.
So I took the keys, locked it, and then she had that realization. Obviously, she didn't say anything out loud because we would have questioned then, but a few seconds later, we walked around the corner, and it just didn't feel right. She had this look on her face, and she was looking at me in such a way that, like, I love it when she smiles, but this wasn't really a smile, you guys.
Yeah, and I kept telling, like, I feel like I kept telling them, hey, you guys, I don't feel good. Like, something's not right. And I was getting kind of upset because as I was saying that, no one was, like, responding. It was like, okay, well, we're done here. Let's wrap it up. And I'm like, I don't feel good, everybody. And, all right, yeah, that was crazy. And I'm like, no one's responding to me. And I was getting kind of pissed, actually, because I was like, why isn't anyone listening to what I'm saying? I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And then we walked around the corner, and that's when I pretty much was bye-bye. I blacked out.
Yeah, she checked out. So, up to that point, all we could see, and all I could see was her smiling face looking at me. And she looked a little bit, but I thought she was excited about what had happened, but she looked a little bit scary to me. And then we got around the corner, and the elevator door opened, and the light, when the door opened and the light hit her face, it looked like she just saw heaven for the first time, and she'd never seen anything of its like. And I realized that at that moment that it wasn't Heather in there anymore. So, and I don't even know how I knew right then, but in that moment, she wasn't by herself. So I only remember acting fast and pressing her up against the wall and forcing it out of her in the way of our people. the psychic get out way. I don't know what else to call that. It was very intense situation. It was very scary. But by the third time I shoved her into the brick wall, we had Heather back.
And let's just say that messed me up.
It did, you guys, for weeks. I gotta tell you, I thought I lost her totally, and she wasn't gonna talk to me anymore after all that. I
think I spent like 1 week for sure completely hidden, and then I slowly, I think 2 weeks later, kind of started feeling like, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, started feeling like, okay, I'm okay. But I would just, like, break down and cry for, like, no reason. And I was terrified. I was sleeping with all the lights on in my house. I wouldn't sleep in my bedroom. I was sleeping on the couch with the TV going, with the lights on. And it wasn't that it was, like, the poltergeist activity didn't scare me. It was that I, for, like, about 20 seconds, did not know what happened. You know what I mean? And to not be in control of your body like that is terrifying, you know. And so I don't think we even investigated that space after that, probably for a couple months. I feel like it took a while.
It did take a while. There were a few things right afterwards, when it was fresh, that Heather remembered that she told me that when she was in there trying to speak to us and we were ignoring her, the only other thought that was ever present in her mind was punching me in the back of the head.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the face that she was making and the smile that she was making, that might have been in that coincidental moment. Because it was a scary smile. It was like, I'm going to hurt you smile.
Yeah. I mean, and then after all that, we really started asking a lot of questions about the building. It's a brand new building. Like, it was built that year, you guys. It wasn't even standing for a full year finished.
Yeah.
So why would a brand new building have that kind of
elevated activity?
So we were asking around, like, where, you know, what was here before this building? You know, and everyone was kind of giving very vague answers, like, oh, I don't know, it's just an open lot, or, oh, there was a bunch of cats here, which is funny because we did have ghost cats for a long time.
Yeah.
It was a long time. We would hear cats meowing. I had one jump in bed with me. I had my back turned. I thought it was my own cat, and it jumped on the bed. You know how cats like walk in a circle and plop down? And I reached back to pet her and I just felt bed. And I was like, what the hell? We had another person feel that a cat like rubbed up against their face. It was weird.
We had another one down here at the end. She had the same experience you did with the bed, curling up in the bed, and then, you know, going to pet her cat, but it was way downstairs on the cat tree already and stuff. Yeah.
So we did have that. We were like, that doesn't make any sense, though. Cats aren't going to throw around a bunch of stuff. Right. What else is here that's calling us, like, horrible names and throwing stuff? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense.
And I don't feel like it... To me, it doesn't still. I feel like just the negative energy possibly that's associated with this very spot.
Yeah.
Could be. Because it was like a kind of a gang neighborhood at one point. After it was housing for people who built the temple.
And way even before that, where it's located, there was a really bloody battle.
Between the Apaches.
The Apaches and, why can't I think right now?
Oh, is it the Hohokam?
Yeah, the Hohokam. And there was a big battle, and there was a lot of just bloody battles in this area.
Yeah, it was very fertile farmland, so, I mean, the Hohokam were peaceful people, but, you know, they had cornered the market on how to feed themselves in this arid, you know, place. And people wanted that. Other people wanted that. So
yeah.
Other people fought to get it.
So there was a lot of violence that this land has seen between that and between there was a lot of, like Michelle said, a lot of areas that was kind of like run down, kind of seedy. There was a lot of drug deals and gang violence and all that stuff. So we just kind of felt like maybe it's the land. The land is the trigger to this closet and to this angry person, energy, whatever it was. We just kind of figured like it fueled that fire, you know? And people are always baffled when we say, oh yeah, the building's only been standing for a few years. And they're like, how do you guys have so much activity down there? And we're like, it's got to be the land. Like,
it has to be. That has to be the connection. And it's funny because a lot of the EVPs, electronic voice phenomena that we got initially would call where we were like a castle, because there are different walkways and areas around these buildings that are around us. And they thought it was a castle and towers and things like that. So, I mean, it really makes me wonder how far back some of the darkness goes, because we know we're millions of years, right?
Yeah.
So the layers...
I mean, sometimes we get voices on our EVPs with massively strong accents, and we're like, why would that accent be here in the middle of the desert? Like, you know, and then they would talk about water and like ships being like,
we get
floods, and we're like, what? You're like, well, this is a desert. When does that happen? You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird.
But then we also will get recordings that sound very, very future. So we'll get, I remember distinctly, array armed was very distinctly said on one of our EVPs. And we would hear like those tones, like there was some kind of instrument walking around the room. We even actually one time, guys, we were in the one room that we didn't expect to have activity in. That's not the creepy closet. We were in the bathroom room, and we got a recording of women who were responding to us because we were saying, oh my gosh, did you hear that? And then you hear two other women go, there it is again. Did you hear them? I heard it.
Yeah.
And it's like we're investigating. Yeah,
at that point we were like, who's haunting who at this point? Like, are we haunting them, or are they, like, what's going on? You know? And then that's when we kind of started talking about like parallel universes and different timelines and
portals and
portals
shifts.
And yeah, and so we were like, this is so crazy. And honestly, I would never think about that. Like, I've never thought about any of that before. Like, I've loved the paranormal and everything about it, but I never thought about portals and timelines and different, universes or anything like that before, ever. Until that moment, I was like, holy crap, like, that has to be it, right? Because how can we be investigating two women investigating us? It was very weird.
It was very weird. And also, during that portion of it, there was a moment when we got a name very clearly hollered on the EVPs, and literally the next night, I walked in and myself exclaimed that name out loud and hollered it due to some other circumstance that I won't even mention. But the strange part was, we're like, did we pre-record? Like, did we pre-record me doing that?
Yeah.
Do we somehow record me doing it prior? Which brings into focus again that whole parallel universe thing, because we're two other women or two other us's in another place very close to us doing the same exact thing in those moments.
Or is it just an energy or spirit, whatever, mimicking everything that we're doing?
Okay, there's that too. But then there's this whole other part that blows me away is collecting EVPs from people who are still alive. Because that has happened also. And we've been in a space where we have recorded a voice saying something, and that person, and though everyone involved is alive.
Yeah.
So
it's an enigma, is what we're saying.
Yeah, we don't know. But it's crazy cool to think about, right? Because
yeah, and now in our other investigations that we have close by this area, we have caught the same voices, almost saying the same thing. And it's like, wait, is that the same person from the other place? Like, it's really, really weird.
And cool, though, because we can connect places. Because we do have this one man's voice who says something at one location, and then we hear him say a couple different things at a different location right across the street. So, obviously, influential person has been in both of those places.
Yeah.
Both connected to the very earliest days of the history of Mesa.
Yeah, it's been a trip here. We've had other experiences in that space. We won't go into them today, and we are planning on doing an episode with all of that pretty much in it, which is crazy because it's like 3 years worth of stuff. And I'm sure we'll always keep investigating it. So I feel like that episode will just always grow and grow and grow. There's no stopping point. But it is a very weird space. And, we were talking about this earlier. You don't have to have an old building that's like, the creepy house on the corner. Like, this is a brand new building. So what is going on,
Yeah. Is it vibration and frequency are a thing that we talk about a lot. And we also believe that adding energy to like some of the things that we do really helps us to get more information. So is it all just vibration and frequency? It lives here, so it hums up from the ground?
Yeah. I don't know.
To say.
We want to find out, though.
Right? And any theories you guys have on it, please hit us up with it, because truly it is baffling as to how a very blank piece of land can sprout up some new buildings, and from floor to ceiling, those buildings are haunted.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys have any kind of experience with this, or you have any kind of theories or anything like that, we would love to hear them. On the Anchor app, you can record messages. You can go ahead and do that, and we'll listen to them. Or you can always hit us up at East Valley Paranormal on Instagram and send us a message. Or check out our website at evpinvestigates.com.
Yes, definitely. Please reach out and let us know your experiences, and let us know if there's anything you'd like to hear us talk about here on the Paranormal Pool.
All right, guys. That is going to wrap it up for today. thank you guys so much for stopping by with us and hanging out and talking about spooky things.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.